All of the fascism going on right now is, of course, incredibly scary, but I would like to offer not a silver lining and not even necessarily optimism, but just like a little bit of a reality check, a reframing, if you will. And that would be this. They are overplaying their hand. They are, for lack of a better term, scaring the hose. I think, until now, it has been very easy for disengaged, vaguely liberal people to sort of stand on the sidelines and basically do the first they came for poem. First they came for Mahmoud Khalil, but I was not a pro-Palestine activist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the trans people, and I was not a trans person, and frankly I find them a little weird and scary, so I didn't say anything. And then they came for Jimmy goddamn Kimmel. Right? And this is where they overplayed their hand. By going after Colbert and now Kimmel, we are talking about the most mainstream, milquetoast, normie-centrist comedians on the planet. That is specifically why they were picked to be late-night hosts. A late-night host has to be someone who is completely inoffensive, completely a void. Like, a late-night host has to be 20 corporations in a human skin suit, right? So you come for that guy, and all of a sudden it becomes impossible for the average person to deny that the fascists are coming for them too. It will certainly come as a shock to a lot of liberals that while those of us further on the left have been saying things like abolish the police, eat the rich, outlaw billionaires, free housing, healthcare, etc., ACAB, big do crime, all of them were saying things like, well, we have to respect all opinions, and we have to compromise, we have to reach across the aisle and find a bipartisan solution. It turns out all that did was make it clear to the fascists that you are an easier target. So I hate to break it to the regular listeners of Pod Save America, but you are in here with us, okay? You share in this struggle against fascism with us, the radical, scary left. Welcome to the club. We have cookies and a lot of really shitty zines. So I don't always agree with Hassan Piker, but I do tune into him often, just the YouTube clips. I don't actually watch his stream, but I'll watch like the edited like segments on YouTube sometimes, just because he's an influential voice on the left, and you kind of get a vibe check from what he's doing, what his audience is doing. He's been pretty level-headed over the past few days. His audience, on the other hand, we're cooked. We're cooked because his audience is so stupid, right? Because I'm watching him talk about Kimmel, and he keeps getting comments in his chat that are like, well, Kimmel was a lib, you know? Oh, we didn't like Kimmel. Kimmel's like a Zionist, and Kimmel like... And Hassan had to keep telling his audience, it doesn't matter. Like, none of that has any bearing on the fact that like, Trump didn't get him fired because he was a Zionist, right? Like, that wasn't a factor here. Okay, and to me, this is like the exact same mindset as everyone who said, well, we can't vote for Kamala because she's a Zionist. The alternative... I'm not doing it. I'm not going to even continue with that argument. You can fill the rest in yourself if you have a brain. If you think a little bit of fascism is okay because it's a lib Zionist, if you think a little bit of repression of free speech is okay because, oh, that dude was super libbed out and he had bad takes. Yeah, no, he did. That's all 100% true. But are we talking about the same thing? Are we aware of the reality that we're living in? Or do you think that the boiling pot is a nice warm bath? Because me, I feel like the only frog who notices that the water's boiling. You know what I mean?
ABC Yanks Jimmy Kimmel Show indefinitely after remarks about Charlie Kirk. This is why I said they're going to come for everybody.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom.
That's what they fucking clapped him over. That's it. Highlighting how little Trump gives a fuck about Charlie Kirk. Like, he didn't even make I thought he made an edgy joke or something. Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our nation. We've made the difficult decision to preempt the show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move towards the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. Dog, if you want someone to do respectful dialogue, like, demand the president do so. What are we talking about? He didn't even say anything wrong here. He didn't even say anything even like remotely off base.
You know, when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. Obviously, look, there's calls for Kimmel to be fired. You could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, you know, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at.
Joe, are you comfortable with the FCC playing this role?
It's not just Jimmy Kimmel. They're coming after everyone that they personally perceive to have even a little bit of smoke for Republicans. That's it. Like, this is some real fucking fascist bullshit. If you think those comments about Charlie Kirk are reprehensible, just listen to Charlie Kirk once or twice and let's see what you think about his takes then.
My last and probably most important hot take about this Jimmy Kimmel thing is that if you weren't up in arms when Ramaya Ozturk, a student, was abducted for writing an op-ed in a student newspaper that the government didn't like, if you weren't up in arms when Mahmoud Khalil was arrested and now being deported for protesting in a way that they didn't like, you are not a serious person. You are, in fact, incredibly racist. I think that's fair to say. I wasn't gonna say that, but now that I've said it, I think it's fair to say. Because just like a day or two before Kimmel was fired, Karen Ataya, an awarded veteran journalist of the Washington Post, was also fired for tweeting that we praise hateful white men and make them out to be martyrs, which is just absolutely true. And she was fired for that. Okay? And there was not 1/100th the outrage when that black woman was fired as when this privileged, incredibly wealthy white comedian was fired. And it did not escape my notice that of the many people who came onto this app in the past week to talk about being fired from their very low level, not at all public, just normal people getting fired, that a lot of them, like a disproportionate number, were people of color, were black and brown, and also queer or trans, okay? So if that wasn't enough, and Karen Ataya wasn't enough, and Mahmoud Khalil wasn't enough, and Ramaya Ozturk wasn't enough, but Jimmy fucking Kimmel is your breaking point, please have a long, deep think about which people you identify with in society, which lives you place the most value on, and which you see as different enough from you that when these things happen to them, you don't see it as a threat to you as well.